IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and today we have a very interesting discussion. You see, on the podcast, we talk about habits in different ways and then different approaches to habits. What is consistency? What is dedication? What are the kinds of habits that we feel we need for this coming generation, for the future? And I think these are all very important conversations to be had. And which is why we have a brilliant guest with us, Gaurav Bhagat, who's going to have this discussion with us. Gaurav, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Ashdin, it is my pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much for having me and really been looking forward to this recording. So thank you. And it is a pleasure once again.
I'm so excited because when we were discussing what we should talk about in the topics, I thought this was going to be a perfect, fit for the Habit Coach podcast. So Gaurav, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. Thank you, Ashdin. So I am Gaurav Bhagat, entrepreneur, podcaster, speaker, coach, trainer, and soon to be an author as well. I have my book coming out shortly as well. So I started my first company all the way back when I was 19 years old, fresh out of college, and went on to build what is today one of India's largest companies in the space of gifting and promotional products. Simultaneously, a few years ago, I also get into the space of coaching and training. Sales has always been my domain. I've been selling since I was 6, and that's when I started interacting with Grant Cardone. And Grant, the 10x guy. He is the person who has gone and really done such amazing things in sales. So yes, took his license for India. I represent Grant Cardone in India now, and simultaneously also working in the space of behavior with BJ Fogg. So at the core, I would say entrepreneur, trainer, coach, and broadcaster, perhaps.
Wow, superb. How did you get into so many different things?
But I think with time, I've also learned the effective art of delegation and been pretty good at building a good team and having them do a lot of the heavy lifting so that I can take out time on a midweek morning and spend that with you and lovely people such as yourselves. So hence, yes, I think it's just the art of delegation and finding good people and bringing them on board.
Fantastic. We were talking about BJ Fogg and we were talking about habits in that regard, right? So when I say the word habits, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And of course, BJ is an inspirational guy. He's someone I came across not too long back. I think it was under about 7 or 8 months back when I finally read his book, Tiny Habits. And then I was so influenced by that book is that I said, you know what? I mean, I could teach this, but I need to go in, get in touch with BJ and his sister Linda, get certified in this particular domain and actually teach it to the world because BJ is brilliant. I mean, he's a Stanford scientist and he's absolutely fantastic. But sometimes I think that it just requires a little bit of simplification. And I think that's where I come in because truly a lot of times I'm called the chief simplification officer in a lot of the ventures that I'm actually a part of. So to come down to the primary differential between behaviors and habits, and people sometimes get confused in terms of what is a behavior, what is a habit, and what really are the differentiators. So behaviors are things that you do consciously. Okay, these are actions and activities that you will actually are doing because of your conscious state. Habits, on the other hand, are things that happen subconsciously, where people might light up a cigarette, where people just might open that aerated drink, where people might, drink that junk food, eat some of that junk food. So these are habits that are, actions that are happening subconsciously. Behaviors are also reactions to the environment and they can be controlled, right? So once, you put a little bit of action, a little bit of activity, a little bit of thought into that, you can actually control it. Habits, however, are sometimes repeated actions which are difficult to stop. So habits are actually repeated actions which are difficult to stop. So primarily that's, the main differentiator between a habit and behavior. And I hope your listeners could relate to that as well.
So does that mean that we should be going towards the behavior side of things more than the habit side of things? Should we be focusing the habit side of things? How does BJ discuss this?
Yeah. So in fact, what BJ talks about a lot in the book and also, in his training modules and everything else, a lot of times we think that we can control our behaviors Okay, and let's just say for a moment, we're focusing on behaviors, and we can do this by being motivated, we can do it through things like repetition. Truly, there are multiple things that actually come into play, and BJ has created a formula, and the formula is B is equal to MAP, right? And B is equal to B is basically the behavior, the M is the motivation, the A is the ability, and the P is the prompt. So too often what I've seen is people are actually focusing a lot on the motivation, and they're like, boss, agar, we go ahead and we do this, and we get our pump ourselves up, we're going to go ahead and change everything. It's not actually true. So motivation is one of the three variables, probably one of the least controllable variables. And over time, we've always been made to believe that if we motivate ourselves enough, if we, push ourselves enough, we'll be able to make these things happen. But actually, it's a bigger phenomena. And I always say people often go from burst to bust, right? Burst is, when they listen to motivational podcasts such as yours, when they listen to trainers and coaches and attend events, what happens is they're bursting with energy, they're bursting with enthusiasm. They said, boss, tomorrow I will go and change the world. Okay, and then the week starts, Monday happens, things are hitting the ceiling, crises are happening everywhere, and people go from that state of burst to a state of bust. And they're like, okay, you know what? We just need to park this aside right now. We need to, address where the fires are actually on. And that's where I think a lot of people really go quite wrong.
So that is part of behaviors, where the B is equal to MAP. Does he have a similar formula for habits as well?
So in a way, the thing is, habit change, according to Fogg, is a process that happens when it's linked to a particular, behavior mapping process. What we talk about, and the book is, of course, called Tiny Habits. And what we talk about in Tiny Habits is the fact that when you're looking to make change, and that change could even be, in terms of habits that you're looking to either drop, or it could be in terms of, new habits that you're looking to start and incorporate. The key thought and the key philosophy is that you need to start tiny. You need to start small. Now, when we go back and we think about, when we started saving, perhaps you and I, maybe when we started as kids, one of our first things in saving was, getting one of those piggy banks. It could have been that clay piggy bank, that our parents bought us, or those, various kind of piggy banks of them. We start putting in a little bit of money. And that's where the savings habit actually started to form in a way. So the key is to actually start tiny, and that, of course, that's why the book is called Tiny Habits as well, and that's what a lot of in the program is called as well. So yes, starting small is one of the integral aspects, and of course, as we take the conversation forward, we'll talk about a few more things around that as well.
Lovely. You started with M, motivation, right? And according to me, motivation is the big evil. Like my entire war is against this word called motivation. Yeah. And, people start, like you said, with a full bang and then bust out very quickly. How do you get around this whole thought of motivation? How do you, reconcile with it?
Yeah. So interestingly, as I was mentioning to you, that amongst all the variables, okay, motivation is probably the hardest variable. It's the least, controllable, because sometimes our motivation does go in waves. I mean, some days we're extremely motivated where we said, hey, you know what, today I'm going to get up and change the world. And then another day, you don't feel like it. Maybe you slept late, you had a bad night's sleep. There are certain circumstances that happened, and hence your motivation actually goes ahead and crashes. So motivation, as per the dictionary, okay, would be defined as the desire to do a specific, behavior. Something like, okay, eat spinach today, go out and exercise, be healthy, wake up on time. So these are, various desires that we really have amongst us. And to my mind, there are three sources of motivation. One is ourselves, where we say, hey, from within, I want to go out and, actually go and crush everything or achieve this particular thing. So one is, of course, us and our internal self. The second source of motivation is actually, and which for some people works really big, is either benefit or punishment. So carrot or stick philosophy, right? Where, okay, I will be incentivized, I will get XYZ rewards. And on the flip side, it's if I don't do this, I will be, punished. I will be admonished, so all of that. So there is basically the carrot and stick philosophy when it comes to motivation. And the last element when it comes to motivation is your environment. Okay, who are you surrounding yourselves with? Who are you listening to? Who are those 5 or 10 people, who are advising you and influencing your various decisions? And I always tell people, if you surround yourself with clowns, don't be surprised if your life resembles a circus. So, just things on the motivation side where people sometimes, don't really figure it out, but just know this, that is these three elements that really impact motivation to a great degree.
Beautiful. And is there one particular that you're most fond of?
Is there one particular element?
Of these three elements of motivation that you're most fond of?
The thing is, I'm an extremely disciplined, individual. I went to boarding school, which was almost like an army school, and hence, for us, it was always said that you need to rely on yourself. So for me, core is, of course, myself, and I've been a big source of my motivation as well. But the second one, and a close second, would actually be environment. So very, very important in terms of who I'm surrounding myself with. Very, very close to negativity. Very, very close to any kind of negative inputs. So even if sometimes in the family someone's being negative, I said, hey, time to take a chill pill. Because it's something that I don't need right now, and hence very, very cognizant of that fact. And so myself and the environment, I think these are two things that probably the biggest for me. Reward or punishment, will come a distant third. Let's just say.
Yeah, because I've never found reward or punishment to be as exciting. Many people get the reward wrong. Many people get the punishment wrong, right? The punishment's either too strict or not strict at all. And the reward just is like meh half the time. So
Yeah.
I've always noticed that the reward punishment aspect of motivation or getting something done tends to fall flat on its face.
Very true,
Right.
very true. And very important aspect. And of course, this because you've been speaking on the space of habits for so long. People change by wanting to feel good, by wanting to feel positive, not by being punished or being made to feel bad or basically put down in any way. So hence habits and behaviors is change by positive actions, not by negative stuff. And hence punishment is, I know a lot of people not only in India but around the world, they fall back onto punishment. It happens even with parents and children. It happens with colleagues in office. It happens with managers and juniors and the likes, clients sometimes with their vendors. But truly, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea to pursue in the long
Even
term.
in your boarding school, I'm sure that was how it was given to you, right? Discipline with the stick.
Of
Right?
course.
That's how it's
Of
taught
course.
to us.
Yeah, the joke was, in fact, I went to the Lawrence School, Sana, and this is school in the late 80s and early 90s. And of course, for us, when we were asked to play a sport and we said that, hey, you have to run the 3,000 meters and you have to do it in a certain amount of time. The point is, if we didn't, it was, we were brought back to the dormitory and we were either kicked. In hockey, if we lost a hockey match, we were hit with a hockey stick. In cricket, if we lost a cricket match, we were hit with a cricket bat. So depending on the sports season, your punishment would happen, or your choice of punishment would be depending on the sport that you actually played and didn't, perform in. So interesting times. And yes, so not a big one for punishment for sure.
So you basically need to find a sport without any cricket bat, hockey sticks, or a ball involved. Love it. Okay. So, when we start talking about habits and behavior change, like you said, we start off with a gusto. The thing that trips people over is this whole thing of consistency, right? Very often people come and tell me, Ashdin, I don't have the dedication. I don't have the self-discipline. I've never been able to be consistent at anything. How do we start thinking about consistency and discipline?
Yeah, again, there's a fantastic model that we use over here. And let's just say that if you decide that what I'm looking to incorporate within myself is consistency. So let's just say that you say, okay, this is the behavior, this is, what I want to bring into my life. And we have a very, very interesting, module that we use, and we call it the swarm of bees. Now, what happens in the swarm of bees is, suppose you're looking at consistency as the core thing, or discipline. Let's take either of the two. Let's just take discipline, okay, as the core section of the swarm of bees. So that's your core thing. Now you've got to look at what are the actions, what are the activities that will actually help me build discipline, right? So hence now, let's role play this one together. So what are some of the things that would perhaps build discipline for you? Would it be in terms of waking up on time? Would it be in terms of joining a particular program? So what are some of the things that come to your mind when we talk about discipline? Ashdin, what are some of the things that come to your mind?
I think the things people struggle with the most, for example, would be waking up, making sure that they don't spend as much time on their phone, are disciplined about the time that they're wasting, Netflix, etc. I think those are the things that are currently the big issues.
Yeah, agreed. I think one of the biggest distractions today is unfortunately, our mobile phones and the gadgets and social media. So now let's just say if you start on this path to being more disciplined, there are certain actions that you want to really be taking. One of them is taking your mobile phone and eliminating it and taking it out of your bedroom. Like that's one advice I give to everyone, that your mobile phone should not be in your bedroom. So set a particular time at night, and it could be 9 p.m. or so, when an alarm goes off, and that's an alarm to say, hey, time to start winding up. Okay, and take the mobile phone and charge it in a room outside your bedroom, right? Because what's going to happen is that if it is in your bedroom, let's just say you wake up at night to drink some water or go to the bathroom, you come back and you see a alert or you see a flashing thing on your phone, you say, hey, let me just check it out, and then the next thing you know is your sleep is gone. And and what that results in, that in the morning, then when your alarm goes off, you're like, "Arey yaar, snooze maar dete hain," And the interesting part I tell people is that, are some of our devices actually created to make us snooze rather than stop? Because you take a look at the phone button. Okay, look at the size of the snooze button in the phone. Okay, when the alarm goes off, and look at the size of the stop button. The stop button is smaller than the snooze button, right? Hence, it's almost like prompting us that hit the snooze, man. It's easier. So, interesting things in discipline. One would be, like you rightly mentioned, take your gadgets and put them into, another room. So that's going to be one of the behaviors that you actually want to incorporate. Get yourself an alarm clock, which is loud, which is conventional, and so on your bedside, so then that habit actually starts of, waking up with that. I always tell people, if you can create a vision board, put a vision board somewhere where you can see it right in the morning when you wake up. Because when you wake up in the morning and you think you're hitting the snooze, you take a look at your vision board and you're like, what? I need to get myself that goal. I need to hit, that milestone. I need to achieve, that landmark at work. I need to buy that car, that home, that plane. I mean, whatever it is for you. And then you say, what? Right now is not the time to hit the snooze button. Right now is the time to get up and get in action. So, small things. So like I said, you've got the core habit, and hence the thing that you're trying to develop, and you have a whole bunch of actions that are to be taken around it. So that's very, very important to map as well. The next thing that you actually want to do is you create something called a focus map. And the focus map is, again, a brilliant process. It's got two lines, the vertical line and the horizontal line, which are interjecting, and you just put the things that are easy to do, things which are difficult to do, things that you can do yourself, things you can't do yourself. And once you actually start mapping these and sliding these, and of course a longer process which I wouldn't want to get into, but it is a 5-minute process which will identify what is called your golden behaviors. And your golden behaviors are those 1, 2, 3 things that will have the maximum impact towards incorporating discipline, consistency, quitting smoking, whatever it is that you're looking to do. Okay, and then you just focus on that, with consistency. Okay, and with the tiny habit system, which is so simple, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that in due course as well, but that is where the magic starts to happen.
So this process basically identifies what are the actions you need to start taking. Correct?
Very
like
true.
do this, because now once you've got these golden actions, which are the ones that give you the most bang for your buck, they're easy to do and have the biggest impact. Then now you have to focus on consistency. And like you were saying, we can focus on it using the tiny habit system. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the tiny habit system is a brilliant system, and it actually is as simple as ABC. And the reason why I say ABC is because that's exactly what it is. All of us have something in our lives that we do every day. And this would be brush your teeth. This would be sit down to breakfast, make your cup of coffee. So these activities, that we do every time, drive to work. So these are what are called anchor behaviors. So anchors are things that you do every day. And the A stands for the anchor. The B stands for the new behavior you're looking to incorporate, the new habit that you're looking to start. So how it links is something like this. So let's just say after I'm done brushing my teeth, okay, I also want to start maybe flossing for better oral hygiene. And it's something I'm not doing at the moment. So now you have your floss line there. So right after you brush your teeth, which is the A, the B, the new behavior is start flossing. So then you take out the floss and you actually floss your teeth. So you've got the A and you've got the B, the old behavior, which is the anchor behavior. And then you have the B, which is the new behavior. And then you have the C. And the key, is C, when that stands for celebrations. So that means that once you've done the behavior, it is time to celebrate, right? And this could be something like, of course, the 10x things, you do the 10x, or you do the fist pump, or you do the two thumbs ups, or yes, or whatever it is for you. So you must actually celebrate. And sometimes it might seem trivial that, bhai, matlab, kya kar ke raha hu? Why am I celebrating? Such a small thing. But again, that's the beauty of the whole system. And I've now been, teaching this to corporate India, teaching this to a lot of large corporates, leadership of companies who initially thought it was ridiculous. And 30 days later, they came back and they said, GB, I mean, I had been trying something, forget for 21 days, I'd been trying something for 100 days. Okay. And I was unable to either start or break that habit. And thanks to your system and the ABC, of course, Forbes system, not my system, I just teach it and make it simpler. He said, I've been able to crack it over the course of 30 days. And it's been absolutely fantastic. So again, just to recap, the key things are A is the anchor behavior, something that you already do. And this could be like, okay, I just gave you an example of brushing your teeth and, flossing, but it could be something like you sit in the car, you fasten your seatbelt, and then what you want to do is maybe listen to a nice podcast. Right. So as soon as the seatbelt clicks, you put on your podcast. Okay. Put on your podcast. Okay. And we listen to that. And hence that is helping us, build good habits. Because podcasting, like I said, and podcasts are extremely educational, motivational, they just make great things happen in our lives. I'm a big believer in podcasting, as are you as well. So hence, the A was the anchor behavior, get in the car, fasten the seatbelt. B, the new behavior, switch on a podcast. And C, once you've done that, hey, just do a fist pump or, the 10X or whatever it is. And the ABC is just how simple it can actually be to create a new habit.
Lovely. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Longest Constitution, Priya narrates the long and ongoing battle of striking down Section 9 of the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. That allows one party to appeal to the courts to restore his or her conjugal acts, and has unsurprisingly been used more by men than women. On Press Decode, Vagda, Ragini, Sarah, and Adya talk about the inspiration behind the movie Hotel Rwanda. Venkatesh Saha, head of APAC and Middle East expansion at WISE, joins Anupam on Pesa Vesa to talk about foreign exchange services. And on the Life Manifesto, Zarina explains the difference between personality and personal brand. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. It really does help us. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Inter vPro. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back. Let's jump into the conversation. That last part, the celebration, the C, is so important. Very often we don't do that aspect, right? We find it very hard to celebrate.
Yeah.
How do you teach people the celebrating part? Because I know that is something that people really struggle on, sometimes don't do. Even when something good happens in their life, no celebration takes place. So forget flossing.
Yeah. That's so true. And I think you hit the nail on the head over there. And the thing is, when we were children, when we were really, really young, we used to celebrate everything. I mean, if our parents gave us even a well done or a sweet or ice cream, we used to go crazy. It used to be like India won the World Cup. I mean, that's what it actually meant for us when we were small. Along the way, somehow, somewhere, it just started to die down. Where perhaps it was peer pressure, perhaps circumstances, environment. And I think as teenagers this happened a lot, because I remember being very, very enthusiastic. As a 8, 9, 10-year-old. But when I perhaps again got into slightly more senior classes in school, and we would start celebrating certain things, people would come and say, "Bhai, matlab, what's the big deal? Itna, why? I mean, they'll call you a pumpy in some schools, right? Like, why are you getting all pumped up about this? This is not such a big deal." And hence, then you realize, what? Maybe it's not such a big deal. And then those little things stop mattering, and then slightly bigger things stop mattering, and then eventually, even like the biggest of things. I mean, you could have closed a multi crore deal, and the guys say, "Crack the champagne, let's celebrate." And you'd be like, what's the big deal, dude? So hence that entire reason to celebrate, has actually been quashed. And again, I think, and I always tell people, I said, bring out that 5-year-old in you. Like, how were you celebrating when you were 2, 3, 4, 5, when even the smallest of things happen? And sometimes people will think it's awkward. Sometimes people will laugh. Boss, logon ka kaam hai kehna. Matlab, go and do what you have to do. The world will initially laugh at you. Then they might actually even call you, ridiculous or ridicule you and all of that. Eventually, they'll probably want to join you. And that's something that I've seen happen for a lot of successful people. And success will happen without a doubt once you start, celebrating. So truly, celebration, to my mind, will be one of those things which will really be the game changer in time to come. People talk about mindfulness. Yes, very, very important. People talk about consistency, discipline. Yes, I mean, all those things are great. But celebration is going to be that one element which in future, as more and more people, get into this and start, really living it, feeling it, and working with it, they'll find amazing things happening with this thing called celebration.
This is so true, because I realized in my life, I just completely stopped celebrating. Right? We would achieve all the targets that we had. Fine, we had set a target for our podcast, 200,000 downloads. Done. Now what next? Now what next? Now what next? And it's so easy to get into the now what next aspect of life that celebration is left to the wayside. And I think this ties in so beautifully with this other, almost like a pandemic that's taking place, which is we taking ourselves too seriously, right? Like you said, bring out that little 5-year-old in you. Right? Have you noticed this aspect of taking yourself too seriously?
Oh, for sure. And, unfortunately, I've been guilty there as well. And, there are certain networks and certain people that I've been spending a lot of time with. And just last week, I said, let me just send them a questionnaire. Just let me get their feedback on what they think about me. Everyone. Okay. And I'm talking about 85% of the people who this survey went out to came back. And these are people I've spent more time with than I have even in my own family. So I'm like, "Arey boss, I've cracked it. And these people know everything about me." And everyone came back and said, "GB, lighten up, it's like throw in a few jokes, be accessible, don't be such a closed, person, all the time. Don't, have build such strong walls around you and all of that." So completely agree that, sometimes by virtue of, conditioning and circumstances and environment, we intend to close up a little bit, and it's just so important to lighten up. And I think one lesson that the world has learned because of the pandemic over the course of the last 17 months now is the fact that it just is more important to be in a happy state, where, you just enjoying life and, all the joys that it really has without being, distracted by all the noise of negativity and everything else. So yeah, 100% agree with you there as well.
Right, taking yourself seriously, lightening up, all those things are so important. And I think this also leads to another segue wala question, which is that, when you got that feedback, how did you react? Like, how do you respond to feedback?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you the politically correct answer, and I'll also give you the answer that came from within. So Grant Cardone, okay, the guy who's of course my sales mentor and everything else, he says that you always agree, right? Even if you don't agree, so you always start with the statement of agreement, and then you're happy to put your point of view, and that of course is great. And so, and if you think about it, people who agree come together, people who disagree move apart, and this is for relationships, this is for sales, this is absolutely everywhere. So yes, you agree. However, initially, again, by virtue of being someone who's achieved a lot, having, I'm not saying like an ego of like too high a proportion, but it does poke you a little bit, right? So sometimes you think, okay, who is this person to be actually giving me this kind of feedback? I mean, who does this person think he is? I've been in this organization for 10 years, and this guy just joined 6 months ago, and this is his thought. So initially, of course, without telling them that, initially it was taking a lot of it in. And then as more and more feedback started coming, you realize that, yes, it is true. You do need to be, these people are well-wishers. They're not saying this because, they intend to put you down or anything like that. So hence, like I said, yes, publicly, obviously, always agree. Privately, introspect, just think about it and see if that you can take, again, those tiny steps, to making these changes happen, and that might actually help as well. So yeah,
I love this dichotomy. So true, right? Always agree. Like I keep telling people, when something happens, don't say no, but say yes and, right? So first agree and then add on to it. You can still turn the conversation towards what you want, but always start with a yes and. So yeah, the second aspect of it was these people are well-wishers. And wherever we get feedback, we don't often think of them as well-wishers. We say, oh, it was a personal attack. No, maybe sometimes they just don't know how to say it, but otherwise they are well-wishers. They want the best for you. I love this aspect of it. GB, thank you so much for coming on the Habit Coach podcast. I absolutely loved it. How can people get in touch with you? How can people follow you? You said you had a podcast. Just tell us a little bit about all these things.
Of course. Thank you. And first of all, thank you for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure. So yes, I do have a podcast. I started in podcasting a very short while ago. It's only been about a year, and it's called the Smashed, Bashed, Yet Not Dashed podcast. So it's also the name of my book, which is going to be published by Success Resources shortly. I've just sent the manuscript to them. And again, these were instances of being smashed, being bashed, but yet not being dashed and moving forward. So that's what the book's all about as well. And so people can find me, of course, on Instagram and Clubhouse. I go under the hashtag of Gaurav_GBA. So Gaurav is my name, GAURAV _ and GBA. So that's my my hashtag, my LinkedIn and my Clubhouse room. I'm I'm on Clubhouse every Tuesday. So I run a sales room on Clubhouse every Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. And of course, I can also be reached on Gaurav at GauravBhagatAcademy.com. That's my email ID. I'm always happy to, have a conversation, and always happy to, just help in whichever way I possibly can, because my why is about taking 100,000 business owners and helping them create 100 jobs in their organizations, and also taking 9 lakh working professionals and graduating students and helping them live the 10x life. And the only way that can happen is by, just having more conversations, being in touch with more people, and reaching out to as many people as one possibly can.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, GB, for coming on the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you, Ashdin. It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And you take care, and look forward to catching up again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So that was our episode with GB. And Gaurav is fantastic with understanding habits. And in the next episode with him, we're going to be discussing what are the habits that we feel are needed for Generation Z. What are the habits that we feel that are needed for kicking ass in life going forward? So really looking forward to that. Please make sure you listen to the next episode. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
IVM